So, is there any consensus whatsoever on glyphosate, on the toxicity of glyphosate? Is it safe? Is it not? The last few parts, if you're just catching up, have been just exploring how, when it came out, it was deemed perfectly safe. Monsanto launched glyphosate in the 70s. 2015, the EPA said, no problem here, nothing to see. Glyphosate's just fine. It is the biggest herbicide in the world being used and lots of money behind it. Then, of course, the IARC study came out from the World Health Organization that said it is extremely dangerous, probably carcinogenic. Then in 2017, Reuters broke a story about how that was a dubious study. There was some things left out of it that might have skewed the evidence. 2019, yesterday, I talked about how another research came out that scrutinized the ways that how can the EPA come out with a study that said it's fine and the IRC come out with a study that found it probably carcinogenic. And ever since then, ever since that kind of scrutiny was given to the IRC, yes, it was flawed and some things that were done that were not great, but it was aggregating so much evidence as to the harm. Yes, some of the studies that found that okay, it's not harmful. The mass majority of the 1,000 studies that the IRC looked at, because I kind of compared it to Rotten Tomatoes, it was an aggregate of many studies, found that it is very harmful. However, the conclusion, and I'll just throw this up so we can seamlessly continue, and I did set my timer today. I only have 3 minutes left. I went 15 minutes yesterday, but the good news when you go 15 minutes is now from now on, 7 or 8 seems like a cinch, like, hey, nothing at all. Let me just read the end of the conclusion where we left off yesterday. More research is needed on real-world exposures to the chemicals within formulated glyphosate GBHs and the biological fate and consequences of such exposures. So again, there's a call for saying we need more real-world research. I want to continue and show you that in the 2 years since 2019, here's a 2021 study. And since then, there have been many lawsuits. Just how many and the amount of money that Monsanto and now Bayer, who purchased Monsanto, the amount of money that they have spent on settling, that'll be a cliffhanger for you. I want to tell you what that is, likely tomorrow. It blew my mind. A review and update with perspective of evidence that the herbicide glyphosate is a cause of non-Hodgkin lymphoma. There are lawsuits that are saying glyphosate causes NHL, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is, of course, a kind of cancer. And the company that owns glyphosate now, the patented glyphosate, which is Bayer, German company, Bayer, they have been fighting many lawsuits and settling because it is getting harder and harder to refute that glyphosate does not cause non-Hodgkin lymphoma. And let me, again, this is a study, came out in 2021, Dennis Weisenberger. And let me just, again, these studies are massive. I've linked to them in the descriptions. Here is the conclusion. The epidemiologic, animal, and mechanistic studies together, this is the conclusion of the study, provide a coherent and compelling pattern of evidence that glyphosate and GBFs are a cause of NHL in humans exposed to these agents. They are a cause. Did you catch that? They provide a coherent and compelling pattern that they do cause non-Hodgkin lymphoma in humans. Okay, so remember, we were just looking at the damage that it causes to plants, then animals, then maybe getting in the food chain and the system, but it is harmful to humans as well. The findings agree in this study herein agree with these of the IARC report. Remember that report that was basically thrown out and said, oh, it's all nonsense. That's what the people lobbying for glyphosate wanted to say. Oh, it was flawed. And so because they left out a few sentences and changed the draft in their final published version, the whole study can be thrown out. And that is what has continued to cause delays in banning spraying and glyphosate. Like I said, when you don't follow the evidence wherever it leads, even when it doesn't lead to where you want it to, which some of these studies said, a fraction of the studies said it's fine. And so when the IRC left those out, it threw the whole study into doubt. That's my 5 minutes. Provide additional strong supportive evidence. Okay, the findings provide strong additional supportive evidence. These findings should prompt new reviews of glyphosate and GBFs by pesticide regulatory agencies. Remember, Canada's? This is a call to look at this again because the findings provide such strong evidence. Additional research studies on this issue are also needed. We need to keep banging away and finding more and more compelling lock solid evidence, but everything is pointing to the toxicity and the genotoxicity and the connection of cancer causing agents in glyphosate, including well-designed case control and cohort studies of GBF use in various settings. Such studies could also determine the current proportion of risk of NHL attributable to glyphosate use. So it's not a question of whether it's risk, it's the proportion of risk. Much larger animal carcinogenesis tests of glyphosate and GBFs performed by independent laboratories, particularly using strains of mice and susceptible to NHL, are also needed, as well as innovative studies looking at the mechanism of genotoxicity in cell and animal models. Okay, so again, it's a study that said, kind of similar to the IRC report in 2015, this is very likely now carcinogenic. There's much evidence pointing to that, and we need even more study. For the sake of honoring your time and keeping this bite-sized, I'm going to stop there. I do have more slides to show you, including just a very common sense conclusion from all of this. And like I said, I want to talk to you about what a hard time German company Bayer, who bought, think about this, I'll leave this tomorrow. Why would a company buy the company that owns glyphosate? Why would one company come along and say, "Oh, you are besieged with controversy. That's great. We want to buy you." It seems like a great business model. There is a reason, and it's the staggering amount of money, but I'll leave that for tomorrow. If you're watching this, today is Saturday. I am enjoying green drinks tonight at Five Kings in St. Stephen at 7 o'clock. A bunch of us will be hanging out. I would love to meet you, talk with you. So please come for that. Hang out with me, hang out with us. We can talk politics or your life or just what brought you here and what you love about Saint Croix. I'd love to meet you along with my family and great members of my team. We will be enjoying that together. Off I go now to a huge part of my day job, officiate a wedding at Dominion Hill. And I will thanks for joining me today. And I hope you can join